Before even shooting this video, two things are clear. One, it's going to be demonetized because this video deals with a tragedy. And two, this video is more likely to get less clicks from my usual videos because not only does it deal with a tragedy, but it also deals with international news. And generally, people don't care about international news. So in this video, I do want to break down the tragedy that has just happened in Mogadishu in Somalia, and then explain, first of all, why people haven't really heard about this, why people don't care, and how to get people to care about international news in general. And I hope you can get something out of this video, even if you generally don't care about these sorts of international tragedies. So first, let me break down the actual news out of Mogadishu. The death toll from a truck bombing in Mogadishu is now over 300, the director of an ambulance service has said, as Somalia reeled from the deadliest attack in a decade. The toll has steadily risen since Saturday, when the blast, for which no organization has claimed responsibility, struck at two busy junctions in the heart of the city. Neither it nor any other group has claimed responsibility, but Al-Shabaab, which is allied to Al-Qaeda, stages regular attacks in the capital and other parts of the country. The group is waging an insurgency against Somalia's UN-backed government and its African Union allies in a bid to impose its own strict interpretation of Islam. So even though over 300 people have died in this tragedy, it's barely been covered in the news. Now, it's easy to, at first, really understand why. And that's because international news like this doesn't get the same clicks and eyeballs that other news does. Now, the answer that most people go to for that is that, well, people are ignorant and people just don't care about international news. Now, there is a fault in that thinking. That's putting the blame on the reader, saying that the reader is too stupid to either care or they lack empathy enough to really care about issues that don't personally affect them. It's easy to say that. Just put the blame on the reader. But we never really think about maybe it's the fault of the news. Maybe it's the fault of how we present information to people. And that is actually what is turning people off from really caring or understanding what's going on in other countries. And this is something that Alain de Botton's book, The News, A User's Manual, dives into. That the audience isn't suffering from ignorance, it's actually suffering from indifference. Okay, so why is the audience indifferent? If we care about a tragedy that happens in our country, why can't we care about a tragedy that happens in another country? And this really gets down to, we understand Western culture. So even if you are American, if there's an attack, a terrorist attack in London, we care more about that. We better understand that. Or if you're Canadian, we care more about an attack in the US than we would about an attack in Somalia, because we understand American culture. So there is a lack of understanding of what a normal day is like in a country like Somalia. And because of that, we have this separation from those people. Because we only ever really hear about them when there is a bombing or something terrible happening. We don't hear about everyday life. So in Alain de Botton's book, he sort of envisions a different sort of news organization of the future. The ideal news organization of the future, recognizing that an interest in the anomalous depends on a prior knowledge of the normal, would routinely commission stories on certain identification-inducing aspects of human nature, which invariably exist even in the most far-flung and ravaged corners of our globe. Having learned something about street parties in Addis Ababa, love in Peru, and in-laws in Mongolia, audiences would be prepared to care just a little more about the next devastating typhoon or violent coup. So for news organizations to grow our interest in big events around the globe, it would serve them to really cover everyday life in these other countries as a way to humanize those other people, so that they're not just those other people, but they're just people like you and me, and we can actually understand their everyday life, so that when a tragedy hits or something big happens, we can better understand and have context for that event. Now, it's hard to get people into those sorts of stories. So how could news organizations go about doing that? And that's where news could actually learn a little more from art. Alain de Botton goes on to describe our fascination with Julius Caesar, a play that is based on political events in Rome. Now, while it would be sort of ridiculous for us to expect the quality of Shakespeare to come out of New York Times, what he is saying is that by using storytelling and using it artfully, instead of just focusing on the facts and numbers and a number like 300 people dead, instead focus on the individuals and tell a story about that individual in a way much like Julius Caesar tells a story about a political event. That way we actually get more engaged in the material and we're not just being thrown stats. In the rush to acquaint us with the so-called main events, the news forgets that our sense of engagement with a country depends on being shown those smaller visual or sensory elements, which alone can excite our deeper interest in a people or a place. Now, this is the sort of approach that does take time to develop. You're not just going to grow people's interest in Somalia overnight. But when you begin putting out these sorts of stories, these stories about individuals, and they're engaging in the way that art is engaging, then people begin to learn more about these other countries. And when they have that context, that base of knowledge about these other countries, when a tragedy like 300 people dying in a truck bomb, that news becomes easier to digest. So there really is a place for more positive news, because if we just focus on the negative, especially internationally, then we become desensitized to it. And we really just have less of an interest in knowing what's going on in other countries. But when we have that base of knowledge of these other countries, then we begin to care more.